This week, I've been listening and reading on X and listening to content creators and fans and everyone talk about being a quarterback away. We've had people talk about whether or not this Giants team is a quarterback away from this or a quarterback away. And there seems to be a consensus that the Giants are not a quarterback away. My question then becomes a quarterback away from what? I'm Coach Gene Clemons, and I have a giant issue. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another edition of A Giant Issue. I am Coach Gene Clemons. New York Giants on the SI. That's where you get all of your New York Giants news and information. Make sure that you go over there and check everything out, especially on a bye week. We've got great features going on, right? It's an opportunity for you to reset. It's an opportunity for you to enjoy football without having to worry about whether or not your team is winning and or losing. Hopefully, yesterday you watched a lot of college football and had dreams of potential future Giants, especially if you were watching that Colorado game at noon Eastern time. You probably saw a couple people that you wouldn't mind donning that New York Giants blue, come 2025. But I had a question because I've been hearing all of this conversation about the Giants not being a quarterback away. And a lot of the criticism was, well, the Giants have this wrong, they have that wrong. It's not just get a new quarterback and everything gets better. Before I get there, though, I just want to talk to the people who are still trying to like push this narrative of the running game is better now than it was with Saquon, and they didn't have success with Saquon. I really and truly mean this, and it's not anything negative versus anyone else. Well, it's not anything that's intended to be mean spirited. It's negative. Y'all gotta stop. You gotta stop with the whole. If you're out here pitching this, hey, the New York Giants weren't good with Saquon Barkley, like narrative. They had 5 of their 6 years were bad under with Barkley type of narrative. You just need to stop. You sound foolish because you sane people are out here saying that Daniel Jones hasn't been good. So you can't sit here and go, well, they didn't have any success when Barkley was the running back. Mean and let us mean that, oh, well, they were right in getting rid of Barkley. Here's what I do know. Oh, and some of you guys are saying, hey, this running offense, this rushing offense is better now with Tyrone Tracy, and they didn't have to spend for Tyrone Tracy. Here's what I'll say. You can like Tyrone Tracy without having to diss Saquon Barkley. And you can like Saquon Barkley without having to diss Tyrone Tracy. But I'm going to tell you this. There's not a one of you who's ever watched football who's going to convince me that if Saquon Barkley was not in this offense that was improved by adding three new offensive linemen to it, right? By having a heavier emphasis on passing the ball, which with another viable weapon outside to open things up. You're not going to convince me that this running attack would not be better with Saquon Barkley as the running back than with Tyrone Tracy as the running back. I'm sorry. Like, I've watched them both play football. Like, trying to reduce or diminish Saquon Barkley into oh, well, we're just as good without him it's just really disrespectful. Like it's not even it's not, you're not boosting up Tyrone Tracy by trying to make it seem as if he's better than Saquon Barkley, and that's what you're doing. Even if you try to say you're not doing it, even if you say that wasn't the intent, that is what you're trying. That is what you're doing by saying that the rushing offense is better with Tyrone Tracy instead of saying the rushing offense is better with 3 new offensive linemen, right? Like when you say that, instead of saying, hey, we have 3 new offensive linemen, we don't have dudes off the street blocking for Saquon. We have guys who we brought in and paid money for blocking for Tyrone Tracy. Like when you don't say that, when you just say, hey, it's a better rushing offense with Tyrone Tracy, that to me is you purposely trying to shape the narrative to say that Saquon Barkley wasn't as good as people are making him out to be. Ladies and gentlemen, you just look stupid. Like you don't even look like jaded. You just look dumb. Every time I hear people saying it, people that I believe actually have some semblance of knowledge about football too. Like guys that I don't think are just idiots. I think that they have some, I think they say some foolhardy things, right? But I don't think they're football idiots. Hearing them automatically go to, hey, this rushing offense is better this year. And then also saying, yeah, well, Saquon Barkley was here for X amount of years and only had this amount of success. When you know for a fact that what's been holding this team back is not the running back position, right? It's been the running back position has been what's buoyed this team. But now all of a sudden, well, it's just silly. Like, just say, hey, listen, would this rushing attack be really good with Saquon? Absolutely. But at least we have Tyrone Tracy Jr. That's the way that you're supposed to shape this. That's the way you're supposed to spin this. Hey, would it be much better? Would this offense be better if we had a Saquon Barkley? Yes. But at least we have Tyrone Tracy Jr. and he could ascend to that level. He could ascend to that level. He's not that level. He's probably never going to be that level. Right? Rookie Saquon Barkley makes rookie Tyrone Tracy look like he shouldn't be in the NFL. Like, why are we sitting out here trying to make it one versus the other, like we didn't see Saquon Barkley when he had what he needed to try to be successful, when he wasn't injured, when he was out there, when he was the catalyst for taking this team to the playoffs. Like, we don't have to do that. I like Tyrone Tracy. I think that he is a good back. I think he has surprised everybody with how good of a running back he can be. We don't have to act like he's Saquon Barkley. I want to get back to this conversation about being a quarterback away, because this isn't me talking about like Daniel Jones. This isn't me trying to take shots or anything at Daniel Jones. This isn't about Daniel Jones. This is about you out there. This is about you, the fans. This is speaking to the media. This is speaking to the content creators. I ask this question with all honesty. A QB away from what? Because when people say, hey, this team is not a QB away, my immediate question goes, a QB away from what? And if you tell me, well, this team is not a QB away from being a Super Bowl contender, I'm going to laugh. And you know what I'm going to laugh? I'm going to laugh because why are you thinking about the Super Bowl? Like, that's the problem. That's the fundamental problem with professional sports. Like, it's the fundamental problem with professional sports. We don't see it as much in collegiate sports, right? In collegiate sports, people will admit, hey, we've got to like climb the ladder, right? For as much parity as there is in the NFL, right? For as much turnover as there is in the NFL, the goal in the NFL is not to win a championship. The goal in the NFL is to get to the playoffs. Is to get to the postseason. And if you're asking me, or if you're asking me, hey, are the New York Giants a quarterback away from getting to the postseason? My answer unequivocally is yes. My answer has to be yes. You know why? Because of what Joe Shane said. Because of what we've all known. The issues of the Giants this year, you're not gonna like this. They're the same issues of Joe Judge's tenure, right? We're close. We're in these games. We're losing them. Are we perfect? No. Do we have flaws? Yes. Are we playing good enough to win football games? Yes. Everywhere but one place. And the 1 year that he played well enough to win football games, they went to the second round of the playoffs. How can you people with a straight face tell me that this team would not be a playoff team if they had better quarterback play? So when people say, hey, we're a QB away, they're not saying we're a QB away from a championship, because that would be skipping a step, right? The first step is to become playoff relevant. That means year in and year out, we're in the playoffs, or we're fighting for the playoffs. That to me is what you're a QB away from. And that's what you should be thinking you're a QB away from. And like I've said before, if you get into the playoffs, then you have a chance, right? Everybody who makes the playoffs, they are a Super Bowl contender. Everybody. Well, coach, what you mean? Like, well, take the New York Giants. The New York Giants are one of the only teams to ever win the Super Bowl by being the wild card. So if the Giants have history that says you can go from being a wild card all the way to the championship game and win it, then why are you not a quarterback away? You see what I did there? If we have already said that in the NFL, anybody can beat anybody on any day. In the NFL, any team can beat any other team on any day. That's the parity. That's how close it is. Then if you make the playoffs, then you are a Super Bowl contender. Because the only people who can contend for a Super Bowl are people who make the playoffs. Think about Detroit. It wasn't all or nothing. It was a slow build. Not relevant. Fighting for the playoffs. NFC Championship. Like they are in a position where they should be Super Bowl or bust. The Giants aren't in that position. So why is everything that I keep hearing from all of these content creators, why is it all based off of Super Bowl? Well, in New York, we care about Super Bowls. Yeah, but that's foolhardy thinking. Because if you look at the history of the NFL over the past 20 years, how many different teams are going to and winning the Super Bowl? There's not many different teams. There's not many different teams. If we're being honest, Kansas City should have 4. The Tampa year they won, Tampa only won because Kansas City got decimated by injuries on the offensive line and they could not block anybody. They lost both offensive tackles. So if that doesn't happen, you don't get the Buccaneers running in there and getting the championship. So then it's 4 for Kansas City. But okay, cool, it's 3. Right? Before that, who's winning all the championships? Before Kansas City goes on there, who's winning them all? The Patriots. And then there's a spattering of Giants. But outside of the 2 Super Bowl championship teams for the Giants, what were they doing as far as being Super Bowl contenders? Right? Outside of those 2 Super Bowl years, one that came as a wild card, we talked about that. What were the New York Giants doing on a year-by-year basis? Well, let's take a look, right? Let's take a look. Their 9-7 season in 2022, they went to the second round. They lost in the divisional round, right? You got to go all the way back to 2016 when they lost in the wild card. That was with McAdoo, by the way. The same McAdoo that next year they ran out the door. The same McAdoo that next year they ran out the door. Right? Then you go all the way back to 2011 where they were 9-7 and they won the Super Bowl. 2008, they lost in the divisional round, lost in the second round. They were 12-4. They were a Super Bowl contender there that year. That 12-4 year, they were supposed to be a Super Bowl championship team. Why? Because they won the Super Bowl the year before when they were a 10-16. This run, right? This Eli Manning run, from 2005 when they lost in the wild card. 2006 lost in the wild card. 2007 went 10-6, a good year, not a fantastic regular season. They won the Super Bowl. The next year they had a great regular season and they lost in the second round. They lost in the divisional round. Then they took a step back and didn't make the playoffs for the next 2 seasons, only to come back at 9-7 and win the Super Bowl. This is not a team over the past 20 years, over the past 30 years, almost 35 years, right? This isn't the team that just wins a bunch of Super Bowls. This isn't the team that goes to the playoffs every single year. Over the last, since 1990, which was the last Super Bowl, which was the Super Bowl that they won of that Parcells era, right? after 90, they went to the playoffs. They went to the playoffs 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 times. In 24, I'm sorry, in 34 years. In 34 years, they went to the playoffs 11 times. In 34 years, they advanced past the wild card 6 times. They advanced past the wild card 6 times. In those 34 years, they made it to the NFC Championship game 3 times. And in those 34 years, they have 2 Super Bowls. They have 3 Super Bowl appearances, and they have 2 Super Bowls. In 34 years. Like, why are we acting as if it's Super Bowl or bust in New York? That isn't what the standard should be, if we're being honest. That shouldn't be the standard for anyone, right? Pittsburgh should be the standard. Pittsburgh should be the standard. People are going to say, well, you know, they just make the playoffs and then they lose. Yeah. You want to know who would be happy to make the playoffs and lose every year? Your owner would. You know why? Because they're making more money if they make the playoffs. You know who else would be happy? Media members would be happy. You know why? Because if you're making the playoffs, you're winning more games, which means fans are more engaged. And if the fans are more engaged, that means the content is up. You want to know who else would be happy if you're making the playoffs every year and then losing? The fans. Why? Because you get to watch a winning product on a week in, week out basis during the regular season. And yeah, if you don't win the championship, you're going to be bummed out. You're going to be bummed out. But you know what you're going to enjoy? The fact that for 18, 19 weeks, your team entertains you with winning football. But no, that's not what a lot of Giants creators and a lot of Giants media would have you believe. The Giants creators, the Giants media would have you believe that you have to be Super Bowl contenders right now. You have to be 13 game winners. But I'm telling you, this team is a quarterback away. Now, a quarterback away from what? That remains to be seen. But a quarterback away from the playoffs? You darn right. Like, why would you not believe that this team's a quarterback away from the playoffs? Like, what would lead you to believe that this team is not a quarterback away from the playoffs? In week 2 of the season, the New York Giants lost to the Washington Commanders. And they lost that game because of field goal kicking, right? They lost that game because of field goal kicking. They didn't have a field goal kicker. But they also didn't have a quarterback who could convert one 2-point conversion. He had 2 2-point conversions that they went for, missed both of the 2-point conversions. The Commanders didn't score a touchdown. They had all field goals, and they beat this Giants team. I'm sorry. To me, that's a quarterback away. That's a quarterback away from one win. This team lost to the Dallas Cowboys because they could not score touchdowns. The score was 20-15, and the Giants, all field goals, all the time. Like, that is a recipe for losing a football game. The the Cowboys, by the way, the Cowboys, they scored 2 touchdowns. They scored 2 touchdowns. They kicked 2 field goals. The Giants kicked 5 field goals. If the Giants had turned one of those field goals into a touchdown, they win. I'm sorry. That's a quarterback away. The Giants lost to the Bengals 17-7. They lost to the Bengals 17-7. What was the issue in that? No passing game versus a team that has not been good versus the pass. The Giants threw for 190 yards and a turnover. That, my friends, is a quarterback away. They lost to the Pittsburgh Steelers 26-18. They lost to the Pittsburgh Steelers 26-18. In that game, there were multiple turnovers. There was opportunities for touchdowns that didn't happen. That, my friends, is a quarterback away. In the Washington Commanders game, it was 27-22. And once again, right, the quarterback became a running back and was able to get the ball into the end zone. But the passing game, 162 yards. That, my friends, is a quarterback away. And in the Carolina Panthers game, we all saw what happened. We saw how the team performed. We saw how the quarterback performed. That is a quarterback away. So you're telling me that a 3-17, right? Or a 2-8 team, excuse me. My apologies. You're telling me that a 2-8 team who had an ability to win 5 other games, like legitimate opportunity, not like, hey, we're making it up, but a legitimate opportunity to win 5, 6 other games? Yeah. Had the opportunity to win 6 other games because, again, the Cincinnati Bengals game, 17-7. I watched that game. Well, I watch all the games, but I watched that game. The Giants had a legitimate opportunity to win that game. They squandered it. So you're telling me they had 6 games that they had the potential to win. They're a 2-7 team if they win 3 of those 6. Just 3. Just 3. They're 5-5 right now, and right in the thick of things. 5-5. They're right in the thick of things. You're telling me that they're not, like, in playoff contention at 5-5? At 6-4? At 7-3? Ladies and gentlemen, when people say that the Giants are a quarterback away, just look at Washington. That's what they're talking about. They're not saying, hey, well, Washington changed their entire infrastructure. Well, the Giants changed their entire infrastructure. They just did it 3 years ago. You know what they didn't change? The quarterback. So if I say I'm a quarterback away, and I just mean a quarterback away from the playoffs, yeah, But when you try to say, well, the Giants are a quarterback away from the Super Bowl, bro, there are so many people who have teams who have the quarterback and still don't have an opportunity to be in 5-6 games that they could have won. The Jaguars supposedly have their quarterback, and they're not in 5 to 6 games that they could have won. The Bears have their quarterback and every weapon known to man around them. They can't win a game. The Patriots have their quarterback. They can't win games. So on and so forth. Hey, how about we'll go to extremes? How many championships do the Cincinnati Bengals have? They've gone to one. How many do they have? 0. How many do the Ravens have? 0. How many do the Buffalo Bills have? 0. The LA Chargers? 0. The Miami Dolphins? 0. These are all teams that have their quarterback. Teams that people believed are Super Bowl contending teams. And they don't have a championship. San Francisco, 0. Why don't they have championships? Because there's a team sitting at the end that's telling everybody no. That team used to be New England. It's Kansas City now. So you're going to need more than just a quarterback in order to get that done, because most of those teams that I named that have a quarterback, they have other things and they still can't get it done. But you know what those teams are now? Maybe not the Chargers, right? I didn't name them in the group of winning teams, but those winning teams are perennial playoff teams. So they're always in the hunt. That's where the aim has to be right now. Don't think about Super Bowls. Think about returning to the playoffs consistently. Consistently. That's how you build. That's how you become a quarterback away from a championship, is when you're a quarterback away from legitimate playoff relevancy, which this team is. You don't want to hear it, I know. You want to know what helps run defense? Possession of the football. Ta-da! Don't 3 and out 3 times in a row. Possess the football, keep it away from the opposition, and guess what improves? Your run defense. Guess what else helps a run defense? Scoring points. Because if you're not kicking field goals or turning the ball over or kicking field or kicking or putting the ball away, now the opposition can't stay within their game plan, which is we're going to run the ball. Now they have to do something different. They got to pass it. You know what helps your pass rush be more effective since you spent so much money on it? Not having the team run the ball down your throat because they have a lead and they can just sit on the lead. All of these things are affected when you're a quarterback away. Just something to think about. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining me once again. New York Giants on SI. Make sure that you go there for all of your New York Giants news and information. Make sure you're coming and hanging out with us here on the New York Giants on SI YouTube page. Check out the Big Blue Breakdown with Paul Dottino. His live pods. He's been doing a great job. We appreciate all of the heat that we've been getting over here at A Giant Issue. I'll continue to give you my unbiased, unfiltered opinion. I appreciate when you guys communicate, so keep leaving those comments. If you're listening on all your DSPs, make sure that you're commenting, that you're downloading, that you're leaving a 5-star rating. We really do appreciate it as we continue to build this thing up. Everything that I do is in service of So when I say something, it is not me saying something just for my own benefit. It is me trying to give you a thought process that maybe you haven't heard somewhere else. Keep hitting that subscriber button. We are heading towards 2000. I appreciate everything. Until next time, I'm Coach Gene Clemons, and I have a giant issue.